ABC Sports presents the 1985 World Series. Tonight from Royal Stadium in Kansas City, Game 2, the St. Louis Cardinals against the Kansas City Royals. Last night, the Royals took a 1-0 lead in the second, had runners at first and third with one out. Buddy Biancalana couldn't lay down a suicide squeeze bunt. Darryl Motley was tagged out in the rundown, and the Royals would not score for the rest of the night. The Cardinals, meanwhile, got single runs in the third and fourth, and then this great defensive play by Terry Pendleton, the catch and throw to nail Jim Sundberg. The Cardinals added one more. Game won, 3-1. Tonight, the Royals try to even things in Game 2. A panoramic shot of gorgeous Royal Stadium filled to capacity in Kansas City for Game 2 of the World Series. Again, the sun did not come out today. Very gray and overcast, but once again dry and no threat of rain. Welcome to Game 2, everyone. I'm Al Michaels. The St. Louis Cardinals trying to go up 2-0. Kansas City trying to even the series. And what about the Cardinals and how quickly the fates and fortunes in this game can change? They were down 2-0 to the Dodgers, then reeled off 4 consecutive wins to take the pennant and a victory last night. And the Cardinals come in tonight with a 5-game winning streak. Let me turn now to our pregame analyst, Reggie Jackson. And not only have the Cardinals won 5 straight, Reggie, they have done it without one of their big guns in Vince Coleman.
Well, what that's gone to show you, and to show the Kansas City Royals that this team can play baseball. They've got it all. You're talking about their bench, Al. Without Vince Coleman, they've proved that they can play the entire game. They showed us good pitching last night. They showed us some timely hitting, and they showed us some outstanding defense. Let's get back to that bench, and you say they don't have a man named Vince Coleman with 110 stolen bases. Tito Landrum has filled in and hit a cool .438. You talk about the rest of the bench, and let's look what Cesar Cedeno and Andy Van Slyke did. Cesar Cedeno drove in the winning run, and Andy Van Slyke, for defensive measures, went in and made a real nice catch off the bat of George Brett. Kansas City's having problems right now scoring runs. That's no secret, Al. You take George Brett, Willie Wilson, and Lonnie Smith away from that lineup, and they have a combined batting average of the rest of the 5 players of .233.
How important is it for Kansas City to win tonight's game?
Well, they've got to get runs from that bench if they're going to do anything, Al. They've got to get some base hits from those players that are sitting on that bench, and what they have to do is get a real good pitching performance from a man named Charlie Lebrand. They don't win the ball game tonight, it's 2-0, and no one has lost the first 2 games at home and then come back and won the World Series. It doesn't look good on paper for the Kansas City Royals, but one thing they have in their favor, you don't play any games on paper.
Well, Game 2 is approaching in Kansas City as the Royals try to square this one. At a game apiece, the Cardinals try to go up 2-0. Our pregame show continues in a moment. Outside the stadium, there are some Redbird backers who have made their way across the state down I-70, ready to enter Royal Stadium. Their team goes home for Game 3 Tuesday at Bush Memorial Stadium. And right now, let's join the public address announcer, Jack Layton.
Ladies and gentlemen, tonight's color guard is being presented by the Headquarters and Headquarters Company Combined Arms Center, Fort Leavenworth, Kansas. The Kansas City Royals invite you to stand and join with Melba Moore, star of Broadway, television, and Capitol Records, as she honors America with the singing of our national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our
crowd salutes singer Melba Moore. We'll return to ABC's exclusive presentation of the 1985 World Series after this message and a word from our local stations. Welcome back to Game 2, everyone. Al Michaels in Kansas City, and an interesting contrast with these two franchises. We talked about the Cardinals last night winning 9 World Championships, second only to the New York Yankees who won 22, and the names are legendary when you go back through the years. Frisch and Hornsby and Dean and Medwick and Musial and names like that. Meanwhile, the Kansas City Royals were only born in 1969, so not nearly the tradition the Cardinals have had, but tremendous success. In fact, they've been a blueprint for expansion success, as Kansas City has now won the Western Division title 6 times in the last 10 years, but still looking for their first World Championship as they try to even the World Series tonight. Working with me again, of course, will be Jim Palmer, who played in 6 series, and Tim McCarver, who played in 3, and they're visiting with the 2 managers, Dick Hauser and Whitey Herzog. So first, let's join Jim Palmer.
As we talked about last night, we talked about the things that Kansas City had to do to win a world championship. Number 1, they had to have good pitching. Danny Jackson pitched a great game. Number 2, they had to play good defense. They executed very well last night. I think what the skeptics really felt about the Kansas City Ball Club, would they be able to score enough runs without the DH? With me today is manager Dick Hauser, the manager of the Kansas City Royals. Dick, what are you going to do to try to get more offense? Are you going to change your lineup? Are you going to try to bring more people off the bench?
Jim, that's probably the last thing that you suggested. That's probably what we'll have to do. We're hitting less than 200 as a shortstop team. And, of course, we're using the pitchers. Our pitchers haven't hit all year because of the DH. I can't make a lot of lineup changes. People have asked me about playing Hal McRae in the outfield. I wouldn't ask a player to do something he hasn't done in 5 or 6 years. So what we'll probably do is try to stay close and use guys like McRae off the bench to win it for us.
Will we see you going for the big inning, or maybe will you try to play for the 1 run?
Jim, we haven't had many big innings this year. We'll probably just have to go one at a time. If we get a chance early in the ball game, you can expect me to pinch hit, for example, for Buddy Biancalana if we've got a chance to get a couple of runs. But I don't expect us to have many big innings. We're going to have to plug away, try to get this thing done with our good pitching.
When Whitey Herzog was the manager of the Kansas City Royals, he won division championships in 1976, 77, and 78. Well, he was fired in 1979, and even though the Royals made it to the World Series in 1980, Whitey wasn't their manager. And Whitey, after winning a World Championship in 1982 with the Cardinals, do you savor this a little bit more, this World Series, because you're playing against the Royals?
Well, not really, Timmy. I came over here, and Kansas City had never won anything. I was here as a player in 58, 9, and 60. I had left Kansas City, got a chance to come back here and manage. The ball club was ready to blossom. We were able to win. We lost 3 tough playoffs to the Yankees. They had great teams at the time. We lost in the 9th inning of the 5th game twice, and in 79, we finished 3 games out, and I got fired. I was here 5+ years, and anytime a manager's someplace for that long, I guess you've done a pretty good job. I was fortunate enough to get to go with the Cardinals. They were having problems in 1980. I replaced Kenny Boyer, who's a good friend of yours and mine, and got to make the changes I wanted. Mr. Bush let me do everything that I wanted to do and put the club together. Won in 82, kind of tore it apart again, and got it back here in 85. But playing here right now is just a thrill to me. My home is 2.5 miles from the ballpark. My family's all here. A lot of my friends are here. And it's just a nice place to play baseball. Great stadium and a great city.
That's quite an understanding attitude. Did you have that same attitude after you were fired?
Oh, yeah. I knew it was going to happen, and the only thing that taught me was don't finish second.
Thank you very much, Whitey. Whitey Herzog, manager of the Cardinals.
Herzog certainly not finishing second this year. He's trying to finish on top of the baseball world. Festive atmosphere here at Royal Stadium in KC. Once again, here's Jack Layton.
Ladies and gentlemen, at this time we would like to direct your attention to the home plate side of the Royals dugout for tonight's ceremonial first pitch. 3 months from this very day, on Monday, January 20th, our nation will celebrate the birthday of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. with a federal holiday, the first national legal observance of his birth. In honor of that event, the ceremonial first pitch will be thrown tonight by Mrs. Coretta Scott King, chairperson of the Martin Luther King Jr. Federal Holiday Commission. It is baseball and Mrs. King's hope that this first ball will serve as a reminder to all Americans to join in the observance of Dr. King's memory and the dreams for which he lived and died. Mrs. King, whenever you're ready, we await your first pitch. Thank you, Mrs. King. We are honored to have you with
So the pregame pageantry is over, and we are ready for the start of play. Game 2 of the 1985 World Series coming right up. Let's have a look now at the Cardinal lineup tonight. Once again, they begin with the league batting champion, Willie McGee, who hit .353. Then comes the Wizard, Ozzie Smith, the shortstop. Batting third, the switch-hitting second baseman, Tom Herr. The playoff hero, Jack Clark, at first base, bats cleanup. Then Tito Landrum again gets the start in left field, and Cesar Cedeno will be in right. Hitting seventh, the switch-hitting third baseman, Terry Pendleton. Darrell Porter is once more back of the plate, and the pitcher is Danny Cox. Taking a look at Kansas City defensively, and they did not commit an error last night. Steve Balboni is the first baseman, and then Frank White, who won a succession of gold gloves a few years back, is the second baseman. Shortstop again, Buddy Biancalana, a key figure in last night's game with the missed suicide squeeze, and the third baseman is George Brett, who charged in and made a nice play last night, and in the playoffs showed you what he can do with the glove. Lonnie Smith in left field. The center fielder is Willie Wilson, with a lot of room to patrol here. It's 410 to straightaway center. And in right field, in the platoon situation, Pat Sheridan. Darryl Motley started last night's game. Sheridan got in the ninth inning as a pinch hitter and doubled. Back of the plate, Jim Sundberg, who won his share of gold gloves while a Texas Ranger. And the pitcher is Charlie Lebrand. A good mark of 17-9, 2.69, and a very key figure, Jim Palmer, in Game 7, when because of the injury to Brett Saberhagen, he had to come out of the bullpen and wound up as the winning pitcher.
That's true, Al. He started the second game and pitched poorly. He came back and pitched very well in the first game, then pitched very well in the fourth game, and then in the seventh game, when Saberhagen was hit with a hard shot off the bat, he came in and pitched 5 1/3 innings, gave up a couple of runs, but they held on to win 6-2 and did an excellent job. Kept him in the ball game all the way, and all the way to Quisenberry. Can't ask for really more than what he's done. Last year is 11-7. This year 17 wins, which we saw with the graphic. Not an overpowering type of pitcher. A couple of change-ups, 3 of them to be exact. They all do something different. A little bit of a breaking ball, doesn't throw it very often. But he's effective, and that's the bottom line.
Tim, it would seem to me he would be a very easy pitcher for a catcher. He has a nice fluid motion, pretty good control.
And plus, with the Cardinal Rabbits on base, he's got a good move. He had 7 pickoffs this year. And Jim Sundberg, of course, with a good throwing arm. And you need that combination against the Cardinals. A guy with a good move and a catcher with a good arm, because these guys can flat fly.
Well, we'll see about McGee. They figured out a way to get him off the bases last night when he doubled, and they threw him out on a perfect relay. And they figure out another way on a 2-hopper to Biancalana. 1 pitch and 1 out here in the first inning. So the league batting champion is gone, and he is 1 for 5 now in the series. Billy Williams is a National League umpire, with Jim McKean at first, American. Bob Engel, National. John Shulock, American. Jim Quick, National, down the left field line. And Don Denkinger, who worked home plate last night and would work home plate again if there is a 7th game, is on the right field line. Ozzie Smith, 0 for 3 in Game 1, takes a strike. The MVP in the National League Championship Series, with the game-winning home run in Game 5 and the big triple in Game 6. 1-1 to count. Ozzie Smith, the Wizard of Oz, and that's not a name he picked up in St. Louis, because before that he was at San Diego. And the Cardinals naturally knew all about him, sought him. He had some contract problems down there. And if they thought he had contract problems or problems signing him then, how about now with a $2 million figure annually? Brett in foul territory. There's this one, and Smith is out number 2. Tommy Herr coming up.
It's funny how few people, both nationally and around the St. Louis area, however, Al, have not spoken about that $2 million since Ozzie Smith won Game 5 of the National League Championship Series.
You'll recall, Tim, too, there was a lot of public flack of sorts, too, when the Red Sox had to give Wade Boggs $1 million in arbitration this year, and everybody said that's ridiculous, and then all Boggs did is go out and get 240 hits and win the batting championship. Tommy Herr takes inside. Talk about bargains. maybe Boggs is the $2 million man.
There's another bargain right there, Charlie Leibrandt.
He came over from Cincinnati in a deal and did not have immediate success because he was up and down for a couple of years, up and down between here and Omaha, the AAA affiliate, 2-0. Charlie Leibrandt, born in Chicago, lives in Leawood, Kansas. And this is his third full year in the big leagues. Strike.
Well, what you have to like about Charlie Leibrandt is the way he gets you into a ball game. When you go out on the mound, what you try to do is keep your club in the game. Last year, went into the 7th inning 19 out of 23 times. This year, 28 out of 33. So he's pitching well, doing the thing that you want him to do. Give you a chance to win.
Next loop down the line and curling foul, and the count is 2 balls and 2 strikes on the switch hitting Tommy Herter with Jack Clark on deck. Off day in the World Series tomorrow, and then 3 night games in St. Louis, all beginning at 8 Eastern time, Tuesday, Wednesday, and if necessary Thursday. Friday would be a day off. And if 6 and 7 are necessary, back here next Saturday night and Sunday night. 2-2 to Herr is grounded to Brett, who charges, throws, and catches. And as was the case last night, the St. Louis Cardinals go down quickly and in order in the top of the first inning. After a half in game 2, Cards nothing, and the Royals coming up. Now we'll look at the Royals lineup tonight, which starts with Lonnie Smith leading things off, and the other speed merchant, Willie Wilson, batting second. George Brett, in a class by himself, bats third. Once more, Frank White hits fourth. He hit 22 homers this season. The platooning Pat Sheridan gets the start tonight against the right-hander Cox. Jim Sundberg hits in the number 6 position. Steve Balboni, 36 home runs, bats seventh. Buddy Biancalana is the shortstop, and the KC pitcher Charlie Leibrandt. And the Cardinal defense, a big reason for their success. Again, Landrum in left, McGee in center, and Cedeno in right, with Pendleton at third, Smith at short, Herr at second, Clark at first. Porter catching and Cox pitching. And I'm reminded as you look at Danny Cox, with Landrum in left field again, that means Vince Coleman is out. And in talking with Gene Gieselman, the Cardinal trainer, and he's an excellent one, they've been working on Coleman. He has just not responded as well as they had hoped, and in fact tomorrow they're going to run a bone scan on him, and it's beginning to look highly doubtful as to Vince's availability for the rest of this World Series.
It's a situation where they say he looks absolutely normal when he walks, but the minute he tries to putting stress on the leg and by running, which is what he does best with those 110 stolen bases, he's unable to do so. Well, Danny Cox is pitching 18-9. You saw in the graphic, 6'4", 230 pounds. Tim, you'd kind of think that he'd throw the ball right through the back spot.
Lonnie Smith to lead things off. Smith, Wilson, and Brett. There is Coleman in uniform and somewhat available. I suppose he could pinch hit, but then Herzog would have to take a chance on him re-injuring that leg. 1-0 pitch is taken low, ball 2. Vince Coleman doesn't do you a whole lot of good if you have to pinch run for him.
Oh, you don't have to pinch run for Lonnie Smith. Imperative that he and Wilson get on base.
And he does with a solid single into left field. So Lonnie Smith gets on. He did that last night, and he was off in a hurry because they picked him off. And remember, during the regular season, he was picked off 12 times. So Smith, who had 40 steals as a Royal and who had 12 as a Cardinal before he was traded here in May, is at first base, and Wilson is the batter. That 278 figure, interestingly, is the second highest batting average among the Royals this season in terms of their starters, trailing, of course, George Brett. pitch up high, but it does point out the problems they have with the rest of their order. Cox, a slow starter, to say the least.
As a matter of fact, the last game that Danny Cox lost was back on September 10th. In that game, he gave up 5 runs to the Mets, a grand slam home run to Howard Johnson of the Mets.
Wilson, switch hitter. And Pendleton has to play shallow at third. Not only the speed at first do you have to worry about, but also, as you can see, Terry and where he is, but a very quick man at the plate.
Well, Wilson doesn't like to bunt, but as a third baseman, you have to respect his ability to do that. Whereas right now, you'd like to set up that first and third situation. Hit the ball into right field.
And he spreads it, backhanded by her. He goes to Smith to first for a double play. And you do not see too many double plays grounded into by Willie Wilson. Certainly very few with a transfer.
Watch this play by Tommy Herr. Wilson is jammed, a little short hop, and watch the smooth transition Ozzie Smith makes with his feet. They have Wilson by a stride and a half at first base.
So 2 down in the first inning, and Brett is the batter.
Of course, on the artificial surface, it's easier to double up a hitter like Willie Wilson because the ball gets to the infielders much quicker.
Brett takes a strike. Dick Hauser, the man who knows his team is having trouble scoring runs. They did all season long. Second lowest batting average in the American League. Wilson, by the way, grounded into 6 DPs during the regular year. The count on Brett is 0-2.
Kind of a contradiction the way when I talked to Dick, he said he was going to maybe play for 1 run. But again, I think his thinking with Wilson is if you bunt with Wilson, you take the bat out of Brett's hand. They may walk him. And you don't have Hal McRae hitting 4th. You have Frank White. Maybe the reason for this strategy.
I think also what he probably meant, he'll play for 1 run if it's the bottom of the order as well. If he's going to have any semblance of a relatively big inning, those first 3 guys just have to do it.
That's right.
Oh, he may know that Cox has trouble in the first inning.
And Brett grounds it down to Clark at first base, and so Brett begins the World Series by going 1 for 5. No runs ahead and nobody left on. 1 scoreless inning in the books in Kansas City. Last night's winner, John Tudor. What did I say? Bears, Vikings? Well, if the Vikings think they're going to play a doubleheader, don't worry about it. I was wrong. Green Bay and Chicago. 0-1 the count. Clark. Bud Graham probably said, what? What did he say? Clark takes inside, and the count 1 ball and 1 strike with Landrum on deck, and then Cedeno.
It's a great angle to see Jack Clark's turn into the ball. I don't think anybody has a purer turn into the ball. You see the shoulder closed, hitting from a closed stance, and he triggers back. What hand action he has. I mean, he can buggy whip a baseball.
Trying to do it that time, and the count is 2-2. On deck, Tito Landrum, who has been Coleman's replacement, and what a great job he has done. League Championship Series, and then last night 2 for 4 and a nice running catch. And you could see the shoulder twitch of Billy Williams. It was more than a twitch.
Pitch just below the knees. Borderline pitch, a little bit low, and Billy starts to call him out, but thinks a little bit better.
And you can't say Sundberg didn't give him a good shot. He stayed down on the pitch. So Billy had a good shot at it.
Clark reaching out to protect the plate and fouling it away, so the count stays 3 balls and 2 strikes on Jack. Jack Clark has always been highly sought. He's one of those fellas who came up very heralded, was the best player, as we said last night, on a poor club, a succession of poor teams. and was always the subject of trade rumors. Nary a year went by without somebody talking about Jack Clark. So, on the way, Tito Landrum is the batter, and I had a chance to visit with him earlier.
What do you think about when you begin to realize that you're going to have a third World Series ring on your hand one of these days?
It's jubilation, believe me. I look at the Hall of Famers. Ernie Banks comes to mind real quickly. 22 years in the major leagues. Didn't have the opportunity to play in a World Series, I believe. The last 3 or 4 years, I've had the opportunity to be in 82, the 83, and now the 85 series. So I count my blessings and feel I'm very fortunate.
The well-spoken, articulate Landrum out of Joplin, Missouri, a strike. He played with the Cards in 82. We mentioned last night he was not eligible for postseason play, but he did get a ring. Then he got the ring in Baltimore in 83. And here's a man that definitely needs a safe deposit box.
Exactly.
1-2 the count.
No, he said he was fortunate. Those who are unfortunate are the pitchers that have to face him, because he's been doing a heck of a job. Well, they pitched him away last night. The 2 times they came in, they were successful. Lee ran ahead in the count. We'll see where he goes.
Inside, 2-2.
Lebrandt's the type of pitcher also that can jam a right-handed hitter, especially with 2 strikes, because they're protecting away the off-speed pitch.
Well, he has that great changeup we talked about, and what makes him successful, as we said, he's not overpowering, but he'll throw the changeup any time, so you just can't sit on one pitch. A lot of pitchers, 3 and 2, you look for a fastball, you know you're going to get it, not with Charlie Lebrandt.
And it's over for called strike 3. Landrum looking back curiously at Williams' call, and back to the dugout.
Well, again, most likely just looking for the ball, because he's shown him 2 pitches. Takes a pitch right at the knees.
Now Cesar Cedeno playing in his first World Series. 3 for 9 in his career against Lebrandt. 1 for 3 last night. Picked up in late August, just prior to the deadline to be eligible for postseason play. And did he do a job down the stretch? 0-1. You know, in the early 70s, when you thought about raw talent, there were really 2 unbelievably talented players in the National League in Cedeno and Bobby Bonds. Those were the 2 for whom superstardom were predicted. Each, I guess, has come up a little short of expectations, but then again, they had that burden of here they are, and watch them play. And Cedeno hits a ground ball to the left side where Biancalana comes up with it and throws him out. And as was the case last night, the first 6 Cardinals go down, and there's no score in the middle of the 7th. Gorgeous shot from a camera that I would assume is mounted atop the scoreboard here in Kansas City. Look around this beautiful facility. It's actually in the lights in center field. The director, Chet Forty, actually climbed up there to place that camera in position last Thursday. Dennis Lewin held the ladder. No score in the bottom of the 2nd inning. Frank White with 22 home runs this season, a career high. Again in the cleanup spot tonight. And he bunts. Good bunt. Cox off balance throw, won't get it. I suppose if anything typifies this Kansas City lineup and attack, it's that your cleanup man bunts.
Well, when you're not scoring a lot of runs, but you're playing well, you could try to get something started. Nice effort by Cox, but Frank takes everybody by surprise.
I think one big reason that White beat that ball out was Cox's last step. When he threw the ball, he stepped toward first base. His momentum carried him over there, and then he had to regather that momentum to go back toward third, and the throw waved. White had to play beat easily.
So White, who had a bad World Series in 1980, is at first base with a count now 1 ball and no strikes. White in that Philadelphia series, and everybody remembers the horrible series Willie Wilson had, so you tend to forget about White, but he was 2 for 25, and so he's now 3 for 30 in his World Series career. Outside, 2-0 on Sheridan, who had 3 homers this season. 2 of them came in this park, and they both came in the same game off Phil Necro, and then he had 2 in the playoffs.
Last night, came in off Todd Worrell, jumped on that high fastball and doubled in a pinch hitting role. So he's been swinging well.
2-1 the count.
I wouldn't be a bit surprised that Dick Hauser wouldn't send Frank White in a situation like this, an ideal hit and run situation. You can't play a passive offense if you don't have a lot of long ball punch. Pat Sheridan with 3 home runs, 2 in the playoffs, however, 3 for the season.
And White is going. The pitch is swung on and missed, and the throw is caught by Smith, who leaps over White. Frank with a steal. And Porter's first attempt is an errant one.
You're in a situation right there where the catcher's not going to pitch out. He did not have a good pitch to handle. It was a slider, and Frank White's in there easily. The reason the 2-0 count is not as good a count to run on, you want to give your hitter 1 shot at popping the ball hard, an extra base hit or a long ball. But 2-1, the situation is reversed, and Frank White's at second.
And Ozzie Smith had to do an Edwin Moses to save an error. 2-2 pitch is called, strike 3. Outside corner. So 1 out. Jim Sundberg comes up. So many years at Texas, so many last place finishes. I asked him if he ever thought he'd make it to the World Series.
Well, I thought about that. I know that there were a lot of players, good players, that have never made it. And when I went to Milwaukee last year, I felt that I was going with a club that had a real good shot of making it, because they'd done it just a couple years earlier. And then the injuries set in, and we just didn't gel. When I was traded to Kansas City last winter, I felt, hey, here's a club that had won their division the year before, but you just never know. And as time went on and the second half came about, we began to gel and play ball, and it became a reality.
So Sundberg finally makes it to postseason and had a big hit the other night. And White is going to third. Sundberg on a check swing fouls it away. Trying to hold up with Frank going. And White, knowing he had a good jump and knowing he had third base, will have to go back.
He had a good jump then, because Danny Cox did not make him stop at second. Whenever you get that walking lead at second or first, you got all your momentum going toward the next base, and Frank White took advantage of that. Jim, you got to make a guy like Frank White stop, though.
Well, that's what you try to do. Again, a lot of pitchers have tunnel vision. They concentrate just on the hitter. And again, Frank White has not stolen a lot of bases lately.
Back Sundberg off, and the count 1-2. Sundberg had only 35 RBIs during the regular year, but he's the Royals' RBI leader in postseason play with 6. 3 of them coming on that bases-loaded triple in Toronto. And then he also hit a big home run here in that third game when the Royals came from behind to beat Toronto. 2-2. That was the night Brett had the Hall of Fame night, but lost in the shuffle was Sundberg's home run, which regained some momentum for KC.
He had the big bases-loaded triple and also an RBI single in that game, driving in 4 runs. And that was a margin of victory, 6-2.
2 balls, 2 strikes the count. And down he goes. So Sheridan and Sundberg have both struck out. White is still at second, and now it's Calhoun.
Well, Danny Cox, if you ask the scouts, they said, what's his best pitch? It's a slider, and there you saw one right on the outside corner. Again, 6'4", 230. You'd think an overpowering pitcher, but his best pitch is a breaking ball.
Now the Royals with this other problem, too. Here's their big RBI guy, the guy who can hit one out and make it 2-0, but he's also the guy who precedes Biancalana, and with first base open, you can't imagine he's going to get anything very good to look at.
Especially since Biancalana's batting left-handed from the right side. He started from the right side as a right-handed hitter last night. He bats .269 as a right-hander, but under 180 as a left-hander.
Oh, 0-1 the count. Look at the outfield. Deep, of course, in left. Shaded to left is McGee. And Cedeno just about straight away and right. Balboni in his postseason 29 at-bats, 4 singles. That's a strike. And the count is 0-2.
The dandy slider.
Yes, he does. That 2-2 slider to Sundberg and that 0-1 slider to Balboni. Not too many right-handers going to hit that pitch. Now he can toy with him for a couple of pitches. That slider low and away. No, they're going to, yep.
Off the plate, the count is 1-2.
You saw Porter, he'll trick you a lot of times. That's what he's trying to do. He gets up on the left ball of his foot, of his left foot, and moves inside, and then at the last minute he moves outside. You don't want to set up too early if you're a catcher, because you got a lot of peekers in the big leagues. They peek back there.
Cox peeking in for the sign. Porter moves to the outside, and down goes Balboni, who accomplished that little feat 166 times during the regular season. Cox strikes the side out, and after 2, nothing. Tomorrow on ABC, America's newest hero, MacGyver, will be seen on a special night, 8 Eastern, 7 Central, and after Monday Night Football on the West Coast. MacGyver tomorrow on ABC. And Stan Musial, the man who not only played with the Cards, but has been an executive for the statue outside Bush Memorial Stadium, Mr. St. Louis. Pendleton takes a strike. 0-1 on Terry at 240. He's a switch hitter. He hit 229 this way and 244 when you spun him around.
Again, that goes back to maybe why left-handers are more successful. Cardinals ate up right-handed pitching, but with the exception of Ozzie Smith, all their switch hitters hit better from the other side, the left-hand side.
Hit in the air to right, and that's trouble, and in for a base hit. And so Pendleton is aboard, and that was the case last night when he became their first base runner by walking in the third and eventually scoring.
A little nubber to right, and this ball well in on the hands of Pendleton. Kind of jammed himself. He actually hit it a little above the trademark. It's when a hitter drags his hands through the strike zone, and thereby the bat head trails, and usually you get a hit like that. Almost by design, that one, wasn't it?
So Porter is the batter. Darrell, who's been in the big league since '72, takes a strike, and the count is 0-1. Darrell Porter in 1982 as a Cardinal was not only the MVP in the league championship series against Atlanta, but in the World Series as well. Another strike, and the count is 0-2. He started his career with Milwaukee, then to Kansas City with Herzog, and then over to St. Louis, where Whitey got him back. Pendleton not straying very far. Pendleton with speed, 17 steals, but as we said last night, not an accomplished base stealer yet because he was caught 12 times.
Looks like Balboni cuts down on his kick with a runner at first base. You don't see that real high kick when he's working from the stretch. I meant Balboni. I mean Charlie Lebrand, of course.
And down goes Porter. Picked it up, threw it hard, and strikeout number 3 for Lebrand.
I guess Balboni is glad that he cuts down that stride, and Darrell Porter is sorry he cuts down on the stride. You can see he doesn't have the high kick, and Darrell Porter up under the high fastball, and that's the third strikeout for Charlie Lebrand.
Danny Cox had a dozen hits this year, a 152 batting average and 6 RBIs. And Brett ready to charge in from third with Balboni holding at first base and Lebrand going over there.
Really, somebody that pitched in the American League with the DH for about 12 years, they just don't give you the outs. If you go back to what Earl Weaver said, you only get 27 as a manager, but in the American League, you never ever usually bunt in this situation. In the National League, it's almost automatic. We saw it last night a couple of times. Of course, you just want to get the runner into scoring position. Terry Pendleton. Nice to get that extra out every once in a while.
Trying to move him along with McGee waiting on deck. Can't bunt, and it's a strike, and the count is 0-1.
It was interesting, the fake throw by Sundberg, but Balboni was charging, and Frank White had yet to get to first base, so nobody was covering.
Danny Cox at 6'4", 230, and you probably read about it. He doesn't want to talk about it anymore. Had to go back to Georgia to punch out his ex-brother-in-law. Misses again, but that time he did not commit. He held back. 1-1. His former brother-in-law apparently was, according to Cox, threatening the family, and so Danny had to go down there to take things into his own hands. As Whitey Herzog, I'm sure, had his heart in his throat, thinking about that right hand.
Oh, Whitey said the good thing, at least he did it on an off day.
Yeah. No balls, 2 strikes the count.
Of course, when you're already having elbow problems, I suppose that could compound bruised knuckles.
And he bunts and fouls it at the plate. So the count is a ball and 2 strikes. Some of the crowd is going, what's going on? What had happened was the scoreboard had 2 strikes as the count. The scoreboard operator didn't see it. Now it is correct at 1-2. But the scoreboard operator didn't see Billy Williams say that the second pitch was not a bunt attempt. So they were confused and wondering what was going on. Here's the 1-2, and that's outside. 2-2 the count. Cards and Royals are scoreless. Herzog, you wonder if he might let Cox swing away with 2 strikes. Brett can't take the chance, though. He still has to play in shallow at third.
Or you wonder if Terry Pendleton might not take off for second base. Balboni has been breaking quickly from first. As you see, Brett still looking for the bunt. But if that first baseman breaks too soon, a good base runner can take advantage of that and take off.
And he's around to bunt again, and that's ball 3. And this is not what Lebrand wanted to do, go 3-2.
Not at all. When they give you the out, you take it. But then again, you can't always do what you want to do. I'm sure he's probably throwing the ball for the center of the plate. In most bunt situations, they teach you to throw the high fastball. I'm not sure if you're Charlie Lebrand, that's the best pitch. But he wants to throw a strike.
Pendleton at first, no score, 1 out, 3rd inning. And the 3-2 is strike 3. Rarely will you see a batter on a bunt attempt with 2 strikes let one go by. He wound up making the pitch, and down he goes.
Well, again, just fooled. Fastball right down the middle of the plate. When you're 6'4", sometimes the ball, and this is truth because that's how tall I am, you'd think the ball is below the knees. But Billy Williams didn't think that, so you go back to the bench.
When was your last at bat in the American League? I guess 1972, huh?
Well, actually, World Series 79.
As McGee hits a fly ball in the air to right center field, deep but playable, and Willie Wilson tracks it down. At the end of 2.5, still no score in game 2. Going to the bottom of the 3rd inning in a scoreless game in game 2. Al Michaels with Jim Palmer and Tim McCarver with Buddy Biancalana to lead things off for Kansas City. Then Lebrand. And at the top of the order in Lonnie Smith. As Biancalana takes outside. Buddy, the switch hitter who batted .188 this season. 1 homer and 6 RBIs. Fouled away and the count is 1-1. Three straight at this point for him.
Bo Drabowski, a teammate of Jim Palmer in the 1966 series against the Dodgers.
Came in relief of Dave McNally the first game. I saw him strike out 11 in 5 2/3 innings. Mostly on blown away sliders and high fastballs. The next day I went out and pitched a 4-hitter, and they said, when did you know the Dodgers couldn't hit the high fastball? I said, when I watched Drabowski. I mean, it was like an instant replay all afternoon.
And Biancolana is on. And Cox winds up walking the 188 hitter. That was the case last night as well, but only after Biancolana had missed the suicide squeeze attempt. He then drew the walk, and up comes Liebrand. And they get 3 guesses as to what Liebrand might be doing here.
I think it's safe to say that Charlie will be bunting.
I think it's the ultimate lock.
On the rug, if you're a third baseman, you can really cheat in and take a shot at the runner at second base.
And he bunts, but too sharply, and Cox goes to Smith, and he goes back to her, and it's a 1-6-4 double play. And it's the second DP pulled off by the Cardinals. So Cox came down off the mound, handled it with dispatch, and there are 2 gone.
Probably the first time that Charlie Liebrand ever had a bunt in the major leagues. 1 hopper. Again, something you work on spring training. What's impressive is the pivot and the footwork with Ozzie Smith. Just a quick throw to first, double play.
Well, it's the first time he had a bunt, obviously, since joining the Royals, but he was with Cincinnati with a lifetime average of 146 coming in.
There's only one thing tougher than hitting after you hadn't hit for a while, and that's bunting after you haven't bunted for a while.
Smith fouls it away, so neither pitcher is able to do the job in a bunt situation. 2 down.
Reason I say that is that I think there's an innate fear when you square around and face a pitcher. I think that's one of the reasons that guys do not get the ball down, especially on artificial surface. Bunting becomes a different game.
Backhanded by Pendleton. Another nice play after knocking it down. And what a job that man has done defensively in postseason play. Great catch and a great play in playoffs. Last night it fouled down, and now a nice stop here by him.
Knocks it down with the heel of his left hand and recovers in a hurry. Good play, Terry Pendleton.
3 rapid innings are gone. No score. 4th inning in Kansas City. A scoreless second game of the World Series, and Ozzie Smith gets backed off the plate. Smith, Herr, Clark, and on the bench, Terry Pendleton, who really improved defensively the second half of the season, and that's manifested itself in front of the entire country in the last couple of weeks.
Getting so you can't drive a ball through the left side of the Cardinal infield. Can't even hit one over their heads anymore. Unless you've got a lot of lift, right?
Ozzie fouls it away, and the count 1 ball and 2 strikes. We were talking about Smith's contract before, the $2 million. One of the things the Cardinals, of course, had to do was to maintain the interest of the fans, and the fans were obviously very upset earlier in the year when they let Bruce Sutter go, let him become a free agent. And it's amazing. I mean, in a way, Whitey Herzog has been almost like the mad scientist. He had a world championship club in '82, and he just about dismantled 2/3 of it and rebuilt it and let Sutter go. Kept Smith. They felt that was important. He's back in the series. Little squiver picked up by Liebrand. Smith is gone. Meanwhile, let's take a look at that play by Pendleton again.
Oh, this is why they call the third base position the reaction position. Ball is on top of you in a hurry, and that ball was no exception. Knocked it down with the heel of his glove and a strong throw. Terry Pendleton. Getting so it's routine with him, isn't it?
Just what the Cardinal left side of the infield needs, huh?
Yeah, right. Another glove man.
Yeah. Tommy Herr takes inside for a ball.
Gave him the nickname Houdini of the hot corner.
And he has been just that.
What makes the position even more difficult on artificial turf is that you, with a guy like Lonnie Smith, anybody that can bunt, you have to cheat in. Ball gets down there in a hurry.
1 ball, 1 strike to count on Tommy Hurt. Tommy Hurt, good postseason thus far and a great regular season. He had an MVP type first half of 1985, tailed a bit. Kind of funny though the way he emerged as one of the pit players to a big star. Grounded to short. And the Angelano throws it out. 2 down. Hur was one of those players that came from the 82 team, but on that 82 team he was one of the parts, one of the guys who moved guys along and cemented the infield, and now this year he's become a major factor.
Always had the knee problems. Again, we talked last night about the 3 knee surgeries he's had. When you're healthy, it's a lot easier to play the game.
Jack Clark, the batter. Clark, speaking of health, still takes treatment for his rib injury. Spent some time on the disabled list. Last year, Clark went down himself with a knee injury after getting off to the best start of his career with the Giants.
With few exceptions, Lee Brand has done a remarkable job staying ahead of the hitters.
1-1.
He's down on the field early, and Buck Martinez, who catches for Toronto, of course had dislocated ankle, broken leg in the middle of the season, said, I asked what kind of pitcher. He said he doesn't like to throw strikes, yet he's a control pitcher. And I think what he meant was that he likes to get ahead of you and then throw the ball a little bit off the plate, just off the edge, and have you swing at pitches that are out of the strike zone.
That's what Jim Lonborg used to do, and in the '67 series, he said he was going to do it against the Cardinals lineup and went out and did it.
Fastball away. 2-2. Brett Saberhagen, he's had that right hand check with the glove on right now, and kind of indicating to us not only is he ready to pitch, he's ready to bat. He'll be the starting pitcher in Game 3 in St. Louis against Andujar. Change is just low, and it had Clark leaning over. 3-2.
I talked to him today. He said he threw yesterday in the bullpen, and actually the bruise was on the heel of his right hand. He said no problem at all.
3-2 to Clark is outside. So Clark at first lands on the batter, and there is Joaquin Andujar, who had such a great first 2/3 of the season and then slumped in the latter half, but worked twice in the playoffs and slated now for Game 3 Tuesday night, Busch Stadium. Tito Landrum struck out in the second inning. Flips his foul. This, by the way, is the first World Series with every game played at night. And leave it, of course, to the old Maverick, Charlie Finley, who first suggested it. In fact, Charlie Finley suggested to then Commissioner Ford Frick in 1963 that all World Series games should be played at night. It took them until 1971 to play even one game at night. Fast swing strike, and the count is 0-2. But we've gone from 1 to then 3 for a few years to 5, and now all prime time. No balls, 2 strikes to count. 1-2. Finley, by the way, if you're wondering, owned the Kansas City franchise, not this one, the A's, and then moved them to Oakland. Sold the team after creating that dynasty out there. Is doing quite well, thank you, in the insurance business, which has been his prime concern for years. Funny though, Timmy, to think about it, how everybody used to think Finley was a lunatic. And a lot of what he suggested has come true, come about.
Well, he did own the sheep that grazed in right field also in the old Kansas City ballpark.
1-2 the count. Charlie O, the mule.
They had the little rabbit that came up out of the ground to give you the balls.
It comes up.
Remember that?
And what can you say about a man who knew how to get more publicity than Reggie Jackson? Why is Reggie falling off the stool in the booth here? 1-2 pitch is lined to right field, and that's a base hit. And Clark is on his way to third and in there with runners at the corners. So all of a sudden, with 2 out, Clark a walk, Landrum a single, is
Well, a good piece of hitting by Landrum because he was protecting away, protecting the outside part of the plate. And that makes you vulnerable inside. The ball off the plate, as Jim Palmer said, when he gets ahead, he likes to throw those balls a couple of inches off the plate, and a good piece of hitting by Landrum.
It's interesting, though, when you get into a World Series, you have to rely on the scouting reports. The 3 hits he has gotten in the series have all been away, and every time they go in, he makes an out. So I think maybe they better change the way they pitch Landrum.
Cedeno standing well away from the plate, had to reach for that one. The count is 0-1. If you see where Cesar is standing, he's doing you a favor if you want to work the outside corner, which Lee Brandt did there.
You try to position yourself as a hitter where you can reach the outside part of the plate. And most of the time, if a guy stands far away from the plate, he likes the ball away. If he's standing on top of the plate, he likes the ball inside.
Reaching again, fouling it away, and the count is 0-2. So 2 out. Clark is the runner at third, and Landrum is at first. No score. Crowd wants to see Lee Brandt get out of this jam as they come to life with a count 0-2. And a throw to first base. Crowd has been reduced to cheering for the defense, trying to get things started. He's inside this time, and the count 1-2.
Little purpose pitch, make him aware of the inside part of the plate. Be interesting to see if he'll try to get him out away.
The double that Cedeno had in last night's ball game was a ball that Danny Jackson got in on him, a slider in. He broke his bat and drove in what was to eventually be the winning run.
Cedeno breaks his bat, and it's a looper to beyond Carolina. So Lee Brandt gets out of the jam, and we are still scoreless after 3.5. Tommy O'Connell manning the camera there, and here we are as we get set for the bottom of the 4th inning. By the way, I want to point one thing out. Ladies, a significant statistic. Jim Palmer celebrated his 40th birthday earlier this week. And so the next time you look at those ads, just remember, they've had to touch up the varicose veins.
Thanks,
Al. You talk about anonymity, Tim. They had our names reversed on that super. But everybody knows Palmer, not necessarily fully clothed.
What was your line since he turned 40?
That's right. No more jockey. It's on to Geritol now.
Do I talk about your diminutive stature?
Now listen.
Come on.
We'll talk about tennis in a minute. Grounded into right field for a base hit. So Wilson is aboard. A single by Willie to start things in the bottom of the 4th inning. And now let's see if the Royals can get something going with Brett.
And a straight change that Willie Wilson finds the hole on the right side of the infield. On artificial surface, no way you're going to get to that ball. And there's no way, in my opinion, you're going to keep Willie Wilson from running at first, probably after Brett hits.
George Brett at the plate. Royals have had their chances. They've had the leadoff man on each time. But 2 double plays have squelched 2 would-be threats. And then White was left stranded when the side struck out in the 2nd. Strike to Brett, 0-1.
Would you send him with George Brett hitting, Jim?
No.
I wouldn't either.
It's a good situation to have when, from a pitcher. It prevents a lot of problems because it leaves the first base hole into right field open. If you do get Brett out, then you have a guy on first that can steal. But if you're manager Dick Hauser, you don't want to take the bat out of Brett's hand. And you're talking 2 runs here the way he's swinging. He had 2 home run swings last night.
And you got to remember, Bobby Cox walked George Brett with runners at first and third and nobody out. And a scoreless tie ball game in the 7th inning.
And it almost cost him the game because McRae drew that bases loaded walk, and Cox afterwards said it could have been the dumbest decision I ever made. It wasn't, though. He's got 3 in the 9th to win.
That's right.
Well, you can do those kind of things when you have a Dave Stieb on the mound. That's another way of looking at it.
And there goes Wilson. Gets a good jump, and Brett hits it down the line in right field and into the corner. Wilson had hesitated, but still has time to round third and come in to score on a double. 1-0.
Willie Wilson off with the pitch, and there he goes. He had a super jump, and Dick Hauser putting Wilson in motion, a hit-and-run play. George Brett driving in his first run of the season, and there goes Willie. And now he hesitates, line drive. Now when he hits second, he turns on that afterburner and scores easily. Royals up 1-0.
And as was the case last night, Kansas City draws first blood. Last night they scored in the second. Now White is the batter. He singled in the second inning. This crowd has really come to life. And White is up there to bunt and takes low, ball 1. What a go.
Of course, what he's thinking, excuse me, Al, what he's thinking, even though he's hitting fourth, nobody out, you want to get the runner, George Brett, to third base. And Frank, as we said last night, has hit everywhere in the lineup. Can hit the ball the other way. On the other hand, hate to see him give himself up with a bunt, especially if you can drive ball the other way like he can do.
Up there to swing away, and it's saved by Porter, and the count is 2-0. Last night we talked about the fact with Brett at second base that White has hit in all 9 spots in the order, Jim, during his career. Can you think of another modern-day player who has done that?
No, I can't.
Your time is up. You would have won a trip to Hawaii if you had the answer, and he's sitting right next to you. You know that Tim McCarver hit in all 9 spots?
That's right.
As a catcher?
That's right.
What manager had you leading off?
Johnny Keane back in 1963.
Hit foul, and the count is 2-1. Keane had you leading off.
What was he thinking about?
You hit 9th in the American League.
That's right. Hit 7th and 8th a lot, too. Hit 4th leading off, or hit 4th at the beginning of the 1966 season. I don't really know whether that's good or bad. I think it's more bad than good.
That's your name in the record book.
I know you can't run because I walked up the hill the other night with you. But what was he thinking about when you let off? Just your on base percentage? Or?
Blazing speed, pal. That tag, that's the worst tag in the world for a catcher. Runs fast for a catcher.
3-1 pitch. There's a liner, and that's into the gap for a base hit. Brett around third. He comes in to score. White's going for second, and he's in there.
2-0. Behind in the count, he goes with his best pitch. Looks like a slider up in the strike zone. Up the gap in left center. Again, Landrum, good arm. White running all the way from home plate. Beats it easy. One thing you can do in AstroTurf.
All of the hits in this inning have come on off-speed pitches. A straight change to Wilson, a slider to Brett, and now a slider to Frank White. Mike Rourke, the pitching coach, out to talk to Danny Cox. And I guess one thing he's going to tell him, Jim, is to reestablish the fastball.
Well, he's probably going to ask him how his elbow feels, too. Some concern after Cox pitched the 3rd game of the playoff for the Cardinals. Had problems with his elbow really all year. Bone spur developed in 1982. He's had problems with it. And Tim, when you throw a slider, that's probably the most injurious pitch for an elbow. Puts a lot of pressure on it.
In the bullpen, Bill Campbell up and throwing. Part of a deep bullpen. Campbell normally the first to get up. They like to go to Worrell and Lottie and Daly later on. So Campbell and Horton, the lefty, have been the long men in postseason, and Bill is up here in the 4th inning. Sheridan, the batter, he struck out. 0-1.
Or are we dumb? We say Mike Rourke's going to go out there and tell him to establish the fastball. It comes back with a straight changeup.
0-1 pitch is grounded to the right side, and it's Jack Clark fielding. He gets the out, and White goes to third. So Sundberg will come up and try to hit a fly ball deep enough to get him in with the score 2-0. Sundberg struck out in the 2nd inning. Royals 2, Cards nothing in game 2. A single by Wilson, a double by Brett, a double by White. And those are the guys that have to do it for him. The infield has to play in. And Ozzie Smith, even though he looks halfway, that's what you would call astroturf in at shortstop. You can afford to play halfway and creep. 0-1 the count. Two runs, 5 hits, and no errors for the Royals. No runs, 2 hits, and no errors for the Cards. Sundberg trying to hit the ball in the air and trying to drive it far enough to get him in. Now 0-2.
He had 2 pretty good pitches to do it with. Cox is not as effective up in the strike zone, and it looks like that's really one of the problems he's had. Not only has he hung some breaking balls, even his supposedly sinker's been hanging high.
1-2.
0-2 slider right here. That's tough to take. Sundberg does take it, and it's just a little high.
And he strikes out swinging. Big out for Cox. Infield can go back now, and Balboni is the batter. 4 strikeouts for the Cardinal right-hander. Balboni was his 3rd victim when he struck the side out of the 2nd inning. 4 hits in postseason play, and all of them singles. After hitting 36 home runs to establish a club record during the regular year.
I talked to Lee May, who's the batting instructor for Kansas City, and I said, does Balboni guess for pitches? I mean, does he go up and look for a breaking ball, look for a fastball? He said, no, he tried that. Didn't work. So what he does is looks either inside or outside. So he looks in a zone.
Popped up in foul ground, and Porter getting chased back to the screen, but runs out of roll. No balls and 2 strikes again.
Darrell Porter, one of the few catchers around that still uses the soft cap in which to catch. Most of them have gone to the more protective helmet, the Scully, and that, of course, protects you against the backswing.
And Balboni accidentally making contact. Count still 0-2.
Some question whether he gets hit with this pitch. Looked like it hit him right on the top of the hand. Of course, the rule is if you're swinging at the pitch, it doesn't really matter.
This is one time when you're grazed by a pitch, or if it's debatable, you don't want to go to first base.
That's right. Not with Frank White at 3rd base, and you've driven in 88 runs during the season.
And Biancalana on deck. Fouled away. Still 0-2. Steve Bye-Bye Balboni, a minor league legend, came up in the Yankee chain couldn't stick. Finally came over to Kansas City in a deal. Hauser said, "You're my guy. I know you're going to strike out a lot. I also know you're going to hit some homers for me. So your name's in that lineup every day." And he stuck to his word. 1-2 the count.
Joe Torre used to say the one thing a hitter's got to do is forget his last at bat. And that's one thing Steve Balboni is having a tough time doing now. He is pressing.
2-2. He's had a tough postseason, no question about that. Oddly, he had a key hit in one of the playoff games when it was a little bloop in the center field for a base hit.
It's only RBI in the playoffs.
2-2 pitch is lifted in the air to left center field, deep, but it's playable as he had to reach out for it. Really wasn't that good of a swing, but it shows you the power he has as he drives McGee that deep. So George Brett doubles to drive in a run, then scores the other, and we've played 4 with Kansas City leading St. Louis 2-0 in Game 2. 2-0 Kansas City here in Game 2. The Royals trying to square the World Series and the bottom of the Cardinal order. Terry Pendleton leading off against Lee Brand, and the count is 0-1. Pendleton, Porter, and Cox. This game being broadcast and televised around the world. There are the Japanese broadcasters. Probably sounding a lot more intelligible than we are. 0-1 pitch is inside. So I suppose we should wish them, what, an Ohio gozaimasu? Is that it?
A lot of former major leaguers playing in Japan now. Randy Bass, one of them, formerly with the Houston Astros.
That's grounded to Brett at third, who backs up. Clance gets it. One third baseman throwing out the other for the first down here in the 5th inning. And Darryl Porter coming to the plate.
The reason I mentioned Randy Bass playing in Japan, he just broke, or actually he didn't break O's record. He holds the record of 54 home runs in a season, but Randy Bass just hit his 52nd last week. 52 home runs in 1 year.
That will get the American clubs re-interested in you, won't it?
Yeah, right.
0-1 the count. And it's not unprecedented. Guys have gone over there and come back, a la Terry Woodfield recently, now playing with the Dodgers.
Davey Johnson, the manager of the Mets, came back and played two more years in the major leagues.
Porter strokes it foul down the line. Count 0-2. The I-70 series. Here we are on the western border of the state, hard by the Missouri River. Tuesday, hard by the Mississippi. About 250 miles to the east. Just outside. 1-2 again. Tuesday, Wednesday, and if necessary, Thursday, Busch Stadium. And all of the games in the World Series, easy to remember, 8 Eastern, 7 Central. Dial away. Game 3, Saberhagen and Andujar. Game 4, you would suspect that Herzog will come back with Tudor. But I got the feeling from Dick Hauser today he's not going to come back with Danny Jackson in Game 4. And he'll push him back one more day to 5. And it could be Bud Black. Though Black right now has to be available for relief duty as you look at Dick Hauser.
Well, Kansas City pitched basically all year with a 5-man rotation. That's the thing I think is interesting about tonight's game. Leibrandt pitched, started the first game, only lasted 2 innings. Went 8 innings in the 4th game, which was only 3 days, or really the 4th day, but with 3 days rest, and then came back with only 3 more days of rest and pitched great in relief. Tonight he's starting with only 3 days rest. Will it affect him sometime in the ballgame? Will he get a little bit tired?
2-2, got him looking on the inside corner. Porter's sort of leaning over the plate, and it got the Black on the inside. Strikeout number 5.
Well, certainly not tired yet. Good fastball. Right on the inside part of the plate.
I think Leibrandt shows why it's more important to work both sides of the plate as opposed to up and down. much more effective pitcher when you work both sides of the plate, and Lebrand is doing it masterfully here tonight.
Outside to Cox, who struck out trying to bunt in the third inning. 1-0. 1-1.
To amplify that point, Tim, what he said is he used to go out and hope that he would pitch well. He came up with a changeup, and it gave him more confidence not only in the changeup but also in the fastball. When you know you can get another pitch over, that allows you to experiment and move your fastball in and out a little bit more. Otherwise, you're just in trouble. The hitter just has one thing to look for.
And Cox strikes out. 6 Ks for Charlie Lebrand after 4.5. Royals 2. Cards zip. Our trucks, our whole production crew is right down there. That's where Chet Forty calls up and wants to know why everybody does bunt right from those trucks. And as we look out past the parking lot, that was Arrowhead Stadium and into Royal Stadium. So you can see visually just how close these two stadiums are. And this afternoon, the Los Angeles Rams across the parking lot stayed unbeaten. Beat the Chiefs 16-0, and they're 7-0. Buddy Biancalana is the batter. Drew a walk his first time up. Switch hitting shortstop. Hits one toward the middle, but Tommy Herr is there and gets him. Let's get a mid-game comment from Reggie Jackson. What do you think, Reg?
No, I see an outstanding performance from Charlie Lebrand. And then you see the Kansas City Royals. They've been listening to what we've been saying about their offense and what they've been reading in the newspaper, that they're not scoring runs. So what do? You see Frank White lay down a bunt, a cleanup hitter. Then you see him try to steal a couple of bases. He's only stole 10 all year. And, of course, the same old story again. They realize they've got to win the ball game. They realize they've got to step to the forefront. Mr. George Brett with a big base hit. Now what they want to do, continue to get that good pitching from Charlie and hang on and win this ball game.
Lebrand goes after the first pitch, pops it up in foul territory, and Pendleton makes the catch. So 2 down, and Lonnie Smith will be the hitter. No team, by the way, has won the first 2 games of a World Series on the road since 1972, when the Oakland A's did it at Cincinnati. And then the Reds were able to go out to Oakland and win 2 out of 3 and then square that series in the 6th game, and eventually Oakland won in Game 7, which was the first of their 3 successive World Championships. And that was a series in which 6 of the 7 games were decided by 1 run, and Reggie Jackson had to watch as a spectator because he was injured in the playoffs against Detroit. Swing and a miss, and the count 0-1 on Lonnie Smith, who has singled and grounded out. Pendleton making a nice play.
Gene Tennis was the most valuable player of that 1972 World Series against the Reds.
And a pretty good series by Joe Rudy as well, defensively. Fouled away, and the count is 0-2. Funny, that series, since we're on that topic, Hal McRae played in that series as a Red, and people forget, but McRae, as a pinch hitter in Game 7, came about 3 feet from hitting a grand slam home run.
And I'm one of those people that forgot.
Yes. Not McRae, though.
That was the first of 3 World Championships in a row for the Oakland A's.
In the air to left center field, and it's Landrum backing up. He makes the catch, and that's a quick inning as the Royals go out 1-2-3. Score is 2-0 going to the 6th. Back after this word from our local stations. This telecast is presented by authority of Major League Baseball and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form without the express written consent of Major League Baseball. Al Michaels, Jim Palmer, Tim McCarver with you at the World Series Game 2. 2-0 Kansas City on top. As they try to square things, teams will travel to the Mound City and resume action on Tuesday night at Busch Stadium. Willie McGee grounded out, flied out, and he is now 1 for 6 in the 2 games.
It's interesting how the Royal outfield is playing Willie McGee. Willie Wilson over toward right center and Lonnie Smith straight away in left. Big gap in left center.
1-1 the count. A look visually there, the room that McGee has.
Of course, if it's got a hump in it and stays in the ballpark, Willie Wilson's going to catch it. When it's not a line drive, Willie Wilson catches it.
One-hopper, nice play by Charlie Lebrand to get it. Some old cliche about a pitcher helping himself, and a perfect illustration right there. Otherwise, that's an inning-beginning base hit.
Well, pitcher is the 5th infielder. Helps to be 6'3". Top of the leap. It's going to be a tough play because if it goes over Charlie's head, White's certainly not going to throw him out.
Smith at the plate. And the other thing, too, not only a base hit for McGee if Lebrand doesn't make the play, but oft times that turns into a double because he can steal second. 6 strikeouts tonight for Lebrand. 7 is high for the season. He did that twice. 1-1. Lebrand finished very strongly this year. Final 12 starts over the last 2 months. He was 7-3 with an earned run average under 2. 1-2 to count.
Of course, one thing that does account for more strikeouts, possibly in the National League and even in a World Series game, of course, you get to face the pitcher. Tonight, Danny Cox has batted twice, and Lebrand struck him out both times. In the American League, you don't face the pitcher.
To center, Wilson backs up and gets there, and it is Cox makes the catch. 2 down. Lebrand has now retired 6 in a row. He started the game by retiring 6 in a row. And he had another streak of 5.
You mentioned how fast he closed. He was also strong at Royal Stadium here. He was 9-2 and 8-7 on the road.
Tommy Herr, 0 for 2. Grounds it, and there's Brett from his knees getting up and throwing him out. And does that bring the crowd to its feet?
George Brett showing Terry Pendleton that he's not the only one who can play third base. Some play by Brett.
It's the World Series, and it's shades of Nettles as well.
An off-speed pitch by Charlie Lebrand, and watch the diving catch by Brett. Outstretched glove, and he has the wherewithal to get to his feet and throw out Herr. Fine play by George Brett.
2-0 Kansas City on top as we go to the bottom of the 6th inning with Willie Wilson to lead things off, and then you know Brett, well, he doesn't have to make a play to get a great hand, but the ovation will be slightly larger, I'm sure. And White, 0-1 is the count on Wilson, who was hit into a double play and single to right. Lifted down the line, curling into foul territory, and no more miracles for Pendleton. He's already made 2 of those plays. I wonder if they're going to give him an error on that. I mean, you do expect them to make that play now. Wilson just inside. 1-2. Looking in from right field, you can see
exactly where he hit the ball the last time.
2-2 the count.
I think the most interesting thing that I see about Willie Wilson, here's a guy that won the batting championship. And here's the fastball inside. Again, that's where they're trying to pitch him when they get ahead in the count. But batting champ in 82, 230 hits in 80. He used to choke up. This year, 278. I asked Lee May, what's the difference? He said he's trying to hit home runs.
Grounded to her. He'll have to hurry, and he does not get it. No. And Her is arguing with Jim McKean, the first base umpire, and that will also provoke a visit from Whitey Herzog. So our first argument of the World Series ensues.
It's really hard for a manager to come out and argue like this because he's really going on the reaction of his second baseman and his first baseman.
Sure.
You can't see the play as well from the dugout, but we can see it well from this angle. Strong throw by Her. Was he out? I thought it was a good call. I don't know.
Hard to tell. Let's see from this angle. Super slow-mo.
He was out. I retract that statement. They had him.
I thought when I looked at it with the naked eye that he was out. But Wilson has gotten aboard with a leadoff single here in the bottom of the sixth inning, and Brett is the batter. So this is the way the fourth inning began. And before that inning was over, Brett had doubled and so had White. Here's another angle. Looks like the ball is there.
Yep.
1-0 the count. In the air, foul, and out of play. Funny the way teams get into streaks, and individuals get into streaks, and then you get into a streak where you get all the calls from the umpires, and the Royals are in one of those streaks right now because in the American League playoffs, a lot of highly controversial calls, but on balance, most of them went for Kansas City.
Certainly did. And the wind blew you talked to Bobby Cox, the wind blew the right way for him the last night. Sundberg's home run, or excuse me, triple off the top of the fence. Sheridan's home run, somewhat windblown. Toronto's hitting the ball well to left center. They're staying in the park.
There goes Wilson, and the ball is hit foul. So they send him, and Brett fouls it away. And in the bullpen, the Cardinals are busy. Once again, back of Cox.
Of course, if you come out as a manager to argue and discuss a play a lot of times, and they're the right-hander, Bill Campbell, Ricky Horton, the left-hander on your right. When you come out to argue, Al, basically you're doing it to protect your players because they obviously think the call's wrong, and also you're posturing maybe to get another call later on. And then if you're trailing 2-0 and you know Wilson can run.
And he's running right here, and Brett hits it high in the air to deep left field, but it's catchable for Landrum, and he makes the play, and Wilson retreats to first base. So Brett sends it a long way the other way, but it stays in. One gone.
And that's a play people at home are looking at, and they say, why with Willie Wilson's speed do you not go back to first base and tag up? Somewhat of a good question if you know the ball is catchable, but in baseball normally with nobody out you might go back and tag up. Sometimes with one out you could definitely go back and tag up. It's kind of a judgment call.
Of course, with him running on the play, he's got too far to go. Really, he was almost at second base by the time Landrum caught the ball. Really had to go back to first and go back down to second. It's almost a time around the bases, isn't it?
Frank White with a runner going, takes low, and Wilson steals second. Good jump. Poor throw compounds it, and Willie with a steal. He had 43 during the regular season.
This often happens when a guy can run and he gets that kind of jump. 4 steps in motion by the time Cox released the ball. And Darrell Porter's throws the third base side, but even with a good throw, you're not going to get Wilson with that kind of jump and that kind of speed.
1 ball and no strikes to count on White. Her ducking in behind, and so Cox backs off.
Another important thing is Cox is a big guy, 6'4". When you're big, it takes you longer to deliver the ball to home plate. And they talk anything over really about 1.3 seconds, you don't have a chance to throw out a base runner. even with a perfect throw.
I tell you, Jim, it's also a good chance to steal third because you take more chances with one out. That's when you really want to take the chance to make the second out at third base. You don't want to take a chance when it's the first or third out. Good time to run right now.
The count. On deck is Sheridan, a left-handed batter. So it's conceivable that if he doesn't, as you look at Sheridan, if Cox doesn't get White, then that's one reason that Horton is up and throwing in the bullpen. Of course, were that to happen, you'd probably see a counter move by Hauser to bring up Motley. And we'll find out now, because White has drawn the walk, putting runners at first and second, and Sheridan the batter. And Porter, if nothing else, going to the mound to buy some time. Two-0, Kansas City with 2 runs in the 4th inning. Wilson a single, Brett a double to drive in Willie. White followed with a double. Meanwhile, Lebrand has limited St. Louis to 2 hits. Herzog is still in the dugout, and now he's going to send Mike Rourke to the mound. And with Rourke trotting to the mound, that immediately would tell you no pitching change. Rourke out there to talk with Cox.
You saw Whitey Herzog shaking his head no, and one would imagine that Mike Rourke would have asked Whitey if he wanted to make a pitching change.
Also,
Whitey said, nope, you go out and talk to him.
And you know that Whitey knows, as we said before, if he brings in a Horton, which he might want to do if he knew Sheridan would stay in there, but he probably knows that Hauser would go the other way and send up Motley. So he's opted to have Cox face Sheridan as opposed to go with Horton against Motley.
Kind of an unusual situation to send your catcher out. Try to build up confidence in your pitcher, and the manager sends you out there to bide time so the guys in the bullpen can warm up.
Outside, 1-0.
Well, that's the great confidence builder. You go out, start an inning, and they get guys up in the bullpen. That's when you know you're going real well. Just a matter of time.
Good changeup. 1-1.
Well, again, it goes back. 6'4", 230. You think the hard fastball, he gets in a jam. You think he'll go with his fastball, but he really just has about an average fastball, 85, 86 miles per hour.
Took something off that one, turned it over, and the count is 2-1. Sundberg on deck. Wilson at second and White at first, and Clark goes to the mound with a count 3-1.
Talk about an ideal hitting situation for Pat Sheridan. 3-1, not a good running situation for Wilson. You want that hitter to go to Hacken. 3-2, different story. They'll be sending them.
And now it is 3-2. So you'll see the runners moving. In terms of striking out, Sheridan this season struck out 38 times in 206 at-bats, which is a relatively high ratio. So you always run the risk of the double play if he Ks. And they do not send the runners, and they strike them out on a changeup. So they may have stayed out of what would have been a double play by holding them. Odd decision by Hauser, but it turns out to be the right one.
Again, crucial situation. What pitch does he go to? Changeup, 3-2, totally fooled. Way, way, way out in front of that pitch.
Sundberg has struck out twice tonight. Cox has struck out 5. He's got Sundberg twice, Sheridan twice, and Balboni once. 1 to go. strike on the corner to the chagrin of Sundberg, and the count is 1-1. Comebacker. Cox gets out of the jam. So the Royals threaten and nothing doing. No runs a hit, leave a couple. On to the 7th inning in game 2, 2-0 Kansas City. On to the 7th inning, 2 runs, 6 hits, no errors for the Royals. No runs, 2 hits, and no errors for the Cardinals. Both hits singles for St. Louis. All the scoring in the 4th. When Wilson singled, Brett doubled at home, and White followed with a double to get in Brett. 2-0 to the 7th we go with Jack Clark leading off by popping it up in foul ground. Sundberg may have a play and does. That's 8 in a row set down by Liebrand.
Here in Royal Stadium, you do not have the problem that you have in most ballparks because you have a lot of room behind home plate. Jim Sundberg, however, did show some white, didn't he? A little snow cone. That ball rolling around the web of the glove, the pocket of the glove. But he caught it handily.
Landrum at the plate, fouling it away, and the count is 0-1.
The one problem a catcher does have in foul pop-ups, the ball is always coming back to you. And the one thing you don't want to do is run under the ball too much. When the ball comes down, you find yourself backpedaling backwards. You look right foolish on some of those balls, especially in windy Candlestick.
1-1, and it's inside for ball 2. Liebrand, this is not unusual for Charlie. 10 times this season, he had gone 6 innings at the outset of a game, shutting out the opposition. 2-2 the count. When you can do that, and you've got a Quisenberry, you can pick up a lot of victories.
We sure are. Reminds me a lot of Scotty McGregor, where it looks like his intent is to have them hit the ball. Again, we talked about the strikeouts, averages around 4 a game. He doesn't want to strike you out. He wants you to swing the bat, make contact, but make outs.
Softly hit to short. Biancalana on the run, throws him out of there. 2 away. 2 down. Liebrand, by the way, had 3 shutouts overall this year. Cedeno is the batter who's grounded out, popped out. Earlier when he came up, Tim, we were talking about the fact that he and Bobby Bonds generally regarded as the men with the most natural ability, and they were so similar as players when they came up in the 70s. They could hit with power, great arms, great speed. And a lot of people still feel, even though both had good careers, they've come up just a little short.
Well, of course, Bobby Bonds came up short in his stolen base count for his career.
Didn't he, in that commercial? I don't know if you've been reading about it recently. Bonds did that beer commercial in which he's with a cricket player, and he asked Bobby how many bases he stole, and I think Bonds said something along the lines of 681, and then somebody finally figured out, well, Bobby only stole in the 400s.
Bobby was counting the minor leagues,
spring
and the
training,
league.
Little League, Pony League.
Right.
He went way back in the books. But after the fact, first of all, they tried to write it off as a typographical error.
Yeah.
And then they found they were 200 short.
0-1 pitch is popped in the air in foul territory. Sundberg coming over toward the unfriendly dugout this time and back out of play. When you come to your own dugout, you'll get some help, but not the other way. 0-2. That is Bob Force in the bullpen for St. Louis. Force does not figure to pitch in relief. You would think he's throwing more in between what might be a start but might not. He's kind of the odd man out right now in the Cardinals scheme of things. So he may just be throwing to keep the arm loose. Just off the plate. 1 ball, 2 strikes.
Again, we talked about in and out. Here's out. I wonder how you could take that pitch. Maybe Cedeno has a good eye. He certainly did on that one.
2-2. Cedeno earlier this season picked up his 2,000th career hit in this milestone year, with Rose eclipsing Cobb, with Carew getting 3,000, Negro and Seaver each winning their 300th. Cedeno picked up his 2,000th hit, and a man in the other dugout, Hal McRae, also had his 2,000th hit this season. Still 2-2. Grounded to third, and Brett throws it out. Abraham is still up. 10 in a row. 2-0 KC, middle of the second. Monday on ABC's World News Tonight with Peter Jennings, the battle over a dam that could save jobs but destroy one of America's greatest white water rivers. Monday on ABC's World News Tonight. To the strains of Kansas City, here I come. The 7th inning stretch at Royal Stadium. Saw that institutional with our old buddy Pete Rose a moment ago, who I understand today predicted the Cardinals in 4. Well, 2-0 Royals as they try to square things. I sort of get the feeling that Pete might be looking in Cincinnati tonight. Balboni, hand swing doesn't come around. Well, the story earlier this year, Rose, of course, not only what he is as a player, but as a great sports fan, and naturally went out and bought the ultimate toy this year, the satellite dish. Grounded to third, and Pendleton throws him out. So Balboni is gone, and Biancalana the batter. And Rose now not only a player, of course, wanting to scout the other teams, but a manager. Goes to bed at 5 o'clock in the morning watching tapes of Texas Ranger games.
I was a little surprised at Pete's bold prediction of the Cardinals 4 in a row, because Pete is not one to make bold predictions, is he?
He may change tomorrow morning. He may also still be right. 2-0 Kansas City, bottom of the 7th inning. Biancalana takes inside. In the bullpen, Joe Beckwith on the left, Mark Gubazar on the right. And they're really just getting in there throwing, because we're to Quisenberry time. If they have to go to the bullpen, and the way Lee Brandt is going, he doesn't look like he needs any help at all. Strike, 2-1.
You have to admire the job that Danny Cox has done, other than the 3 successive mistakes basically he made. He's pitched a whale of a game. We'll go back to 1983, Cooperstown. Brooks Robinson, day after, they called him up from the minors. I said, who's this guy that's got the great sinker and the outstanding slider? Last year, didn't have an impressive year, 9-11, but 18-9, pitched all the big ones for him this year and won them.
And Biancalana drew the walk. You saw him hesitate. Buddy, not used to drawing walks. When you hit 188, you don't draw a lot of walks, but that's the third he's drawn in the World Series.
And second tonight.
Oh, again, something you don't want to do. You see the fastball just run off the corner. I don't think he really knows what the count is.
Somebody tell David Letterman they're pitching around Biancalana. Buddy says he doesn't want to be on that show anyway. The ratings are too low. He wants to be on with Koppel, he says. He'll do Nightline.
But he also,
But he
also said that he was closer in his pursuit of Ty Cobb and Pete Rose than David Letterman was in his pursuit of Johnny Carson.
But he's got a lot of acclaim from that.
Oh, so you're Biancalana and Forrester.
Yeah. Lee Brandt takes a strike. Charlie up there to bunt, as was the case the first time he came up, and he bunted into a double play. Then he fouled out swinging away, so he's 0 for 2.
Well, he's a fast learner. When you're butting a double play, maybe you have to let the next one go. Figure a strikeout, at least you'll leave a man on base.
And he takes another strike, and it's quickly 0-2 for a man who in the National League, where the Reds had a 146 career batting average. He was 13 for 89.
I think Tim said very well earlier, not only is it a tough visual perspective for a pitcher sometimes to bunt, but
he lays this one down, and Cox will tag him, and this time he is able to sacrifice.
The fact of the thought is that when you bunt on AstroTurf, you're more worried about making a perfect bunt because it's so easy to defense the bunt. There, Biancalana running more or less, you have a lot more confidence in getting the ball down.
Lebrand getting a partial standing O as he went back, not only for doing the job, but also they're saluting him for the performance he has turned in on the mound. 2 down. And here's Lonnie Smith, singled, grounded out. Pendleton made a nice play. And then flying out. So 1 for 3 tonight. 257 hitter during the regular year. Look out, 1-0. This should do it for Cox because he's due to come up third in the 8th. One and one. Error ball boy. Biancalana back to second. Landrum tossing the souvenir into the seats.
Lonnie Smith hitting that ball hard to left field, but foul, but he got the good part of the bat on it. I would imagine Cox and Porter will go outside with a slider now. Guy hits the ball that hard, foul. You don't want to keep coming inside.
Down the middle he comes, and it's a base hit, and they're waving in Biancalana. Here comes Landrum's throw, and he's right there, and they nail it. And Buddy doesn't like the call as Porter had to take it out in front of the plate and come back to get him. But the Royals taking every advantage of every opportunity, and Ferraro never hesitated sending them home. Watch again.
One of the unsung heroes early, Tito Landrum. 2 fine plays last night, a couple of hits, and watch this throw. Inside part of the diamond. Porter has to leave the plate. Dive back to get Biancalana. Some throw.
All right, have another look now from a different angle here.
It was a fine throw by Landrum, but not so sure that Porter made the tag. If he did, he tagged the top foot. I don't know. Very close in that angle.
That angle made it look like he was safe as Balboni makes the play nicely on the ground ball hit by Pendleton. And there's one away. We're going to look again. This is a very tough call, though. If you're Billy Williams, this is as close a play as you're going to see at home plate.
If he did get him, then he tagged that top foot. If he missed the top foot, he was safe. It was obviously Billy Williams' call, and he thought he tagged the top foot.
Lynn Jones is now in left field. Lonnie Smith is out. With a 2-run lead, they go to the defense. And Porter takes outside, ball 1. 1-0 the count.
It's just something you touched on last night, again, about the Cardinals. They can beat you so many ways. Tito Landrum, normally a defensive outfielder, not only is he hit, he makes a throw like that, and he usually goes in for defense to give that late inning help. As you see Brian Harper on deck.
Pitcher due up next, Cox. So he is done for the night, having yielded 2 runs in 7 innings. But he's been trumped by Lebrand, who backs Porter away. 2-1.
Remember Darryl Porter when he had that open stance? I mean, he's made a complete change. He used to be wide open like Brian Downing. Now he's got a closed stance. Scout said he's gone from a low ball hitter to a high ball hitter.
Looped foul. 2-2 the count. Lebrand with 3 shutouts this season, and he seems to rise to the occasion because he pitched them against Toronto, the White Sox, and the Angels, 3 clubs that had good years. Fouled away, and the count still 2-2.
another thing to think about when you think of those three clubs, they're also aggressive ball clubs. In other words, as I said, he goes up there to make the hitters hit the ball. They will swing some balls out of the strike zone. So you throw strikes early in the count, and then you just kind of work at the corners or just a little bit off the corners. And he's done that great tonight.
High in the air to left center field, but a lot of room for Lynn Jones. 2 down. Charlie Lebrand has not allowed a base runner since the 4th inning. He has now retired 12 in a row, and Brian Harper comes up to bat for Cox. Lebrand this season 2nd in the league to Dave Steve in earned run average at 2.69. Harper, you talk about great trades. He came over in the deal with Pittsburgh that also brought Tudor for George Hendrick, now with the Angels, and a minor league catcher.
Really Steve Braun's counterpart. Brian Harper usually hits in game situations late in the game.
One ball and 1 strike to count on Harper. Little squibber foul and the count 1-2.
Charlie Lebrand, certainly the story tonight. I mean, the Cardinals have not hit too many balls hard off of it.
2 hits were loopers.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Landrum and Pendleton.
Talk about a guy keeping the ball off the big part of the bat. Lebrand's done that about as well as you could do it so far.
2 balls and 2 strikes now on Harper. 1 walk, 6 strikeouts for Lebrand. Crowd really into it with their club leading 2-0, and Lebrand mowing him down. Still 2 balls and 2 strikes. Two runs, 7 hits for the Royals. No runs, 2 hits for the Cardinals. Go back to 71 in the Pittsburgh-Baltimore World Series. Nelson Browse, a 2-hit shutout.
Remember that well.
Yep.
Falling down after every pitch. Not every pitch, but just on the ones hit back up the middle.
That's 4 outs away.
When you can't field, you better get out of the way.
In the air to left center field, and there's Lynn Jones. Way up and 3 down. 2-0 Kansas City, and we'll be back with the 1985 World Series Game 2 after this word from your local stations. There are the totals at the end of 7.5. Kansas City on top by a score of 2-0, and it figured they needed good pitching and they needed some timely hitting with Ken Daly now on in relief, and they needed some hitting from their key people, Wilson and Brett and White, and those guys have done it tonight. A single by Wilson, a double by Brett, a double by White coming in the 4th inning, and a magnificent performance being turned in by Lebrand. So Daly now in relief of Cox, with Wilson to lead off, and then Brett and White. Willie with 2 hits tonight. Shatters his bat and grounds it down to Hurd. 1 away. George Brett grounded out, doubled to drive in a run, and came in to score. And fly to left. So in the World Series now, Brett is 2 for 7.
The third baseman, George Brett.
In a lot of ways, this is a much better World Series, or a much more comfortable World Series for George Brett, because you all remember the last time Brett played in the World Series, what made headlines every day. Brett had a little ailment known as hemorrhoids, which made it very, very difficult. And what made it particularly difficult for Brett, it's the only thing anybody wanted to talk about for a week. 0-1 pitch is a strike on the outside corner, and the count is 0-2.
Well, you get an idea of why Ken Daly's so effective. Porter sits away, hits the glove. Very simple game. About 92 miles per hour. Great curveball to go with it. Kind of makes you fight off fastballs like that, Tim. I mean,
It sure does.
especially, again, it's probably the first time that Brett's maybe faced Daly. You know, all he knows about him is a scouting report. Guy's got an above-average fastball up in the 90s and an excellent curveball. A little bit late on the fastball, but yet you're still looking for the curveball. Doesn't make it easy.
1-2.
There was that Downer Daly, the #1 draft choice of the Atlanta Braves back in 1980 from Jerome, Idaho. Came to the Cardinals last year along with Mike Jorgensen for Ken Obergfell. He has paid his dues, too.
2-2 the count. Hauser, half hidden, knowing he's on the verge of tying up the series. As Brett fouls it away. In the bullpen now, the lefty is Bud Black, and the right-hander is Steve Farr. But again, as was the case with Gubazon before, and Beckwith getting in some throwing, because if they're going to go to the bullpen right now, it's Quisenberry. And he hasn't gotten up because Lebrand has retired 13 straight, up high, 3-2.
You would think that would be the case, but it goes back to what we said last night. You don't usually take Quisenberry out of a game, but I think 8 times in the last 88 ball games he's pitched, but he has not been effective against left-handers. First 3 guys can turn around and hit left-handed next inning, so you kind of wonder maybe they might bring in somebody else other than Dan Quisenberry. At least it's a thought.
It's possible. The only reason I would think Quiz would be the guy would be that Hauser had to show Quisenberry he had the confidence in him in the playoffs after Dan got lit up twice by Oliver and he had to bring him back. Tough choice, though, in a way, because you know that the guy may not have it and maybe you should go the other way, but then again, do you not show the confidence in the guy that got you there?
Well, we've certainly done that all year because Quisenberry did start out not in typical Dan Quisenberry style, still had 37 saves, but Dick did stay with him after a rough start.
All I know is that Hauser certainly hopes that all of this conversation becomes totally academic. And Lebrand is on his way to doing just that.
Let's face it, it's too late now to change anyway. This is the World Series.
To the count.
I don't think
sounds
either.
good. Yeah, that sounds good until all the second guessers, all those.
Well,
yeah, I know exactly what you're saying, and there's a lot of validity to that. Usually, I mean, you go with the guys that got you there, and Quisenberry certainly has done that.
Outside, 1 ball, 2 strikes.
You save all your experimenting for spring training. You do not experiment in the World Series, in my opinion.
Except when you have Mickey Stanley at shortstop. Huh?
Nice going.
To left field, and Landrum going back, and that one is off the fence. He juggles the ball, comes up with it, and White goes into second with another double. And Franks had a perfect night.
Well, first you bunt, then you double, then you do it again.
So Frank White, a single, 2 doubles, and a walk tonight. White, in 7 previous World Series games in his career, had a total of 2 hits in those 7 games, and tonight he has 3 in 1. Sheridan is staying in, I would assume, because Hauser feels that Sheridan is the better defensive outfielder. Otherwise, he'd have Motley batting here, but he'd rather have Pat playing right. And he's got the lead. So it's lefty against lefty, and he hits it down to Tommy Herr. And that's that for KC here in the 8th inning. So they leave it down at second, and they go to the 9th, 2-0 Royals. ABC, America's newest hero, MacGyver, will be seen on a special night, 8 Eastern, 7 Central, and after Monday Night Football on the West Coast. MacGyver tomorrow on ABC. That is a fascinating graphic right there. You would think in all that period of time somebody would have come from behind and won a game, trailing by 2 or more runs, but it hasn't happened since the Yankees beat the Reds in 1939. And that's the dilemma facing the Cardinals right now, with McGee at the plate. Lebrand has faced 3 over the minimum tonight. Swing and a miss. Quiz is up in the pen just in case. Popped up, foul territory. Balboni coming back, and no, it is in the dugout. So 0-2 the count.
That ball was catchable, but Steve would have had to, first of all, put his foot on the top step and then step down into the dugout. He's got plenty of help from his teammates, as you see, but if he'd have caught that ball, it would have been a spectacular play.
0-2, McGee, Smith, and Herr at the top of the order. Lebrand has walked 1, struck out 6. 1-2. Grounded, and that one takes a wicked hop off the sliding box and down into the corner. And McGee winds up with a double. It looked like it might have hit the seam as Brett dove for the ball. And so McGee, after nearly fouling out, doubles down the line.
George Brett rubbing that left shoulder of his. The ball did hit the seam, Al. But even had it not hit the seam, had Brett come up with that ball, doubtful that he would have thrown McGee out anyway. And that's all really the Cardinals want, is a base runner.
Now Ozzie Smith, who hit .302 right-handed this season, tries to bunt his way aboard and takes inside. He's bunting for a hit. 1-0. Dan Quisenberry throwing in the bullpen. One the count. Ozzie, after that hot LCS, is now 0 for 6 in the World Series. 1-2.
If you're Charlie Lebrand, of course you don't want to give up a run, but your concern is the tying run that's at the plate. The man on second is significant, but not that significant.
2-2.
Charlie Lebrand wants an out. He'll take it any way he can get it.
I used to go out there with a 1 or a 2 run lead. Earl Weaver would say you can't get beat with a 1 run lead till a man gets on.
Right.
Crowd chanting Charlie, Charlie, with a count of 2-2 and nobody out. Grounded to Brett. McGee holds at second. 1 out. Tommy Herr, 0 for 3 tonight. Had a hit in 4 trips last night. He is the only player who has hit safely in all the postseason games on these 2 clubs. So he's trying to keep that streak alive at the most opportune time. 1-0. Cardinal dugout. Some leaning against the top step in the more placid and serene Kansas City dugouts. Good pitch. Handcuffed him. Shane Deans to the background and Herzog in the foreground. Hauser talking with Blaylock, the pitching coach.
And Tommy Herr, a fat part of the field hitter, and George Brett is on the line at third, and Steve Balboni on the line at first. Trying to guard against the double.
1-2.
And it looks like you've got a pitcher trying to get Tommy Herr out with stuff away, which means he's not going to pull the ball. If you remember the last time he was up, Brett made that brilliant stop of his ground ball going to his left, and at that time he was playing in routine position. Not so now.
Lifts it in the air to right field. That's Sheridan making the catch. 2 down. So 2 away, and Jack Clark coming to the plate. Blaylock going to the mound. So you've got Clark as the tying run. If Blaylock goes to the mound, you're not going to see a switch. So they're going to talk over the situation. Lee Brandt is a highly intelligent fella. Doesn't need to be reminded what happened about 4 days ago. And they discuss, obviously, how to pitch to Clark right here with 2 out.
Jim Palmer, also a highly intelligent fellow, so we'll defer to our colleague. What would you do in this situation? Power to power, or pitch around him, or walk him? No, walk the tie and run on base.
Well, I just know it. You never get beat till you give up one more run than you have. I mean, you want to make good pitches to Clark, but you also don't want to groove one. But if you walk them, the next guy hits one, you're trailing. So it's a tough situation. This is what the game's all about. I just think Lee Brandt's going to pitch the way he has all night. He's going to go after him, try to stay out of his power, which really is a fastball out over the plate.
1-0. On deck is Landrum. Two and 0.
If you make a mistake away, it's going to be a base hit. If you make a mistake inside, this game could be tied. And your point's well taken, Jim. That's why Lee Brandt's staying away.
I do think one thing is that he does not want to walk Clark, but he does know if he does, he probably will be not facing the next hitter. Most situations, managers do not want a pitcher to pitch this well and lose a game. You'll go to Quisenberry.
3-0.
You can bet he's swinging.
He took a cursory look at Hal Lanier, who went through some motions.
You can also bet that Charlie is thinking about that he may be swinging.
McGee at second with 2 down, and the 3-0 pitch upcoming to Clark. He swings and grounds it into left field for a base hit. So McGee scores, Clark becomes the tying run, and Landrum comes up as the go-ahead run. Brett had to guard the line, otherwise he might have been able to make the play.
It's really kind of a point of conjecture. You don't really have to guard the line, but you choose to do that. And therefore the ball does go in the left field. That's a ball that might be playable. And again, you have to play percentages except in late inning situations. You don't want a ball down the line by you for a double. There you see Brett on the line. George is 3 or 4 steps to his left, might catch that ball. Again, that's a managerial decision. Most of the time in Major League Baseball, they do guard the line in a tie ball game or ahead by 1 run.
And if you are one that does guard the line, Jack Clark hitting against Charlie Lebrand would be the time that you'd want to do it.
They were ahead by 2, but they were guarding the line to avoid the double, which puts the tying run in scoring position. At least right now, they have the tying run at first. And Landrum fouls it away. And Dick Hauser telling you something here as well. The right-hand batting Landrum. He's got Quisenberry in the bullpen, and we've talked about Quiz, and even though on balance a successful year, having some problems here and there, and he opts to have Lebrand, the lefty, face Landrum as the Quiz keeps warming.
Are you a little surprised that Whitey Herzog is not having a pinch runner for Jack Clark?
Well, he's average speed. The problem Clark has had in past years is he's been a relatively bad base runner, and that was the case last night when he got caught after the double.
And you got to tie it before you win it. Cardinals do have Tom Lawless available for pinch running duties. He was much quicker than Jack Clark.
0-2 to Landrum is outside. 1-2 the count. Second and third, and is held there. He is stopped at third as the throw comes in. So Landrum reaches out and hits a little blooping double down the line. Clark did not make the best turn at second base and has to stop at third.
Well, once again, they chose to go away, most likely trying to stay away from the long ball. Blooper to right, very similar to the base hit back in the 4th.
And if you were thinking if Tom Lawless were pinch running for Jack Clark, if he would have scored, I don't believe he would have.
I don't think
so.
It's
a tough call, but I don't believe he would have. But he may have been sent by Hal Lanier, so you never know what might have happened.
I think you're exactly right, Tim. He would have been far enough along so that Lanier probably would have sent him. Now Cedeno, and they're going to walk Cedeno. The go-ahead run is at second. They're going to walk Cedeno, and they're going to take their chances with Pendleton, who is a switch hitter. So as far as Pendleton is concerned, if he wants to stay with Lebrand, Pendleton this season as a left-handed batter hit .244, and as a right-handed batter hit .229. So not much disparity. Probably more a case of, does he have more confidence in Lebrand to get the job done, or Quisenberry?
The third baseman, Terry Pendleton.
The thing here, too, is you can't make another trip to the mound since Blaylock's already been out there. So they can't go out and talk about this anymore.
Pendleton does have one of the Cardinal hits, one of the 5, and that was a bloop double to right field, or a bloop single to right field. And the reason Cedeno was walked, he is not the important run. The important runs are on third and second. One to tie, one to go, one up.
Also, it does set up the force at any base, which makes infield play a lot easier. It also sets up a base-loaded situation. Possibility of possibly walking in a run. A little more pressure on Lebrand.
Lebrand has now thrown 130 pitches tonight. Granted, 4 of them intentional to Cedeno. But he's getting up there. That's a strike. 1-1.
It looked like he was taken all the way. Why would you be taken in a situation like that? You don't want to spot a pitcher a pitch, but he did appear to be taking all the way. Interesting.
Yeah! 2-1 the count. This is a very big pitch right here.
Got that right.
And that's hit down the line in left field, and the Cardinals will take the lead as Clark scores, Landrum scores. They're waving Cedeno in. The throw to the plate is not in time. And the Cardinals lead it 4-2.
This has got to bring back memories of Game 4, the American League Championship Series, when Charlie Lebrand had a 1-0 lead going into the top of the 9th inning, and the Blue Jays scored 3, and now the Cardinals have scored 4 in the top of the 9th, and remember that graphic at the top of the inning.
It has not happened since 1939, a team coming from 2 or more runs down in the 9th inning. And here comes Hauser, who's had Quisenberry up and throwing throughout the inning. But the Cardinals coming up with 4. Lebrand came into the inning having set down 13 straight. The double by McGee. Then he got the next 2 men, but then the roof caved in. 4-2 St. Louis with 2 out in the top of the 9th. Double switch for KC as Motley comes into play right field, and he'll hit 9th. Quisenberry comes in to pitch. He'll hit in Sheridan's spot, which is the number 5 spot. So the Cardinals on top by a score of 4-2. 2 out, 9th inning, and let's pause 5 seconds to allow our local stations to identify themselves. So here is Porter now, coming up with a runner at second. Pendleton at 2 down. Van Slyke has come out on deck to bat for Daly if the inning is prolonged. And Jeff Lottie is in the Cardinal bullpen. And in fact, they will force Herzog's hand here to see if they will indeed send up the pinch hitter for Daly. When the Royals come up in the bottom of the 9th, they have Sundberg, Balboni, and Biancalana due up. We can count on Sundberg, we can count on Balboni, and then a pinch hitter. So here in the inning, the intentional walk, and of course, the whole story of this inning is Lebrand coming in on a real roll, Quisenberry in the bullpen having that kind of a season, and Hauser opting to leave Lebrand in to try to get that one final out, which has proved to be so elusive.
And also, as you and Jim pointed out, Al, George Brett on the line on the 3-0 pitch. I mean, this game could be over if George Brett's playing into the position, and that's not 20/20 hindsight, because that was pointed out before Clark got the base hit to left field.
And Slyke hits it in the air to center field, and it's Wilson getting underneath it, and the inning is over. But what a nightmare for the Royals fans. As the Cardinals bat around, score 4 on 4 hits, and it's 4-2 going to the bottom of the 9th. Jeff Lottie comes in to pitch, and he will be hitting in the number 6 spot. because they leave Van Slyke in the game. Andy, who was the pinch hitter, batting in the 9-hole, and now playing right field. So the Cardinals on the field, as you look at George Brett, Monty and Porter, the infielders, Parker, Smith, and Pendleton, the outfield, Landrum, McGee, and Van Slyke. Sundberg leads things off. He has struck out twice and grounded out. Balboni on deck, and then they'll go to the bench. Sundberg 1 for 6 in the 2 games. Hit .245 during the regular season. 1-0. Worth saying again, we mentioned it at the very top, no team has ever lost the first 2 at home and come back to win the World Series. McGee is there, and the Royals are now 2 outs away from attempting to make history.
They certainly are. And they have a guy that saved 19 games out of 22 possibilities. One of the reasons that maybe Whitey Herzog let Bruce Sutter go down to Atlanta, a man that set him up all last year on his way to 45 saves, this year has done the job all year long. Good fastball, excellent slider. There you see it.
Balboni takes a strike and the count 0-1.
Talk about having empathy for Charlie Lebrand. If you'll remember, last year in the American League Championship Series, he lost Game 3 to Detroit, 1-0.
That's right.
And you and Jim did that game.
Milt Wilcox out-pitched him. Pitched a great game.
That's right. And as I recall, the only out of that game scored on a double play grounder. Little swimmer up the third base line and a base hit. Of all ways to get on for Balboni. So the man who's paid to hit home runs has a key playoff hit, a blooper to center, and now a key hit here in the bottom of the 9th inning, a little squiver up the line. And George Orta to bat for Biancalana.
Now we'll see whether the Cardinals guard the line. The extra base hit, very important, obviously, right now. That would put Orta in scoring position with the Royals trailing by 2 runs. Jack Clark will no doubt play behind Balboni, but Terry Pendleton's not on the line at third.
Foul at the plate, and the count is 0-1.
I know we're kind of belaboring the point, but when I used to pitch, and baseball's supposed to be all about percentages, you want to play where they're going to hit the ball.
The majority of the time.
Most of the time you don't play down the line, so I understand sometimes why you would do it, to keep the tying or the winning run at second base in scoring or out of scoring position.
0-2 the count. On deck is Dane Orge. With the pitcher's spot due up, there is the former Cardinal. One and 2. What fun it is for the managers in postseason, like Lasorda the other day and Hauser tonight, and to go into the press conference and the clubhouse. And not only be asked, but be asked about 100 times, because as the next wave comes in, the questions are all the same.
And don't forget Bobby Cox also, the Toronto Blue Jays.
That's grounded down to her at second. He goes to Smith and back to first, and the Cardinals go home with a 2-0 lead and a gut-wrenching loss for the Royals. So Charlie Lebrand throwing a masterpiece through 8, and then all the air comes out of the balloon. The Royals and their fans totally stunned. And Whitey Herzog has watched his team now win 6 in a row. And they're halfway to the 1985 World Championship. Cards win it 4-2. We'll be back. 4-2, the St. Louis Cardinals beat the Kansas City Royals, and Terry Pendleton drives in 2 runs with a double in the 9th inning that proves to be the difference. Terry, tell me what you are thinking about when they are walking the preceding batter and you're about to come up in that particular situation.
Well, Al, you know, it's a big situation. It's something that really pumps you up, and you feel like they don't give you enough respect. So you want to try to do some damage, and you want to go up and look for a good pitch to hit.
What about the effect that not only a victory, but a victory of this sort has on your ball club, going home 2-0 right now?
Well, I think it's a big lift because we look kind of down, in the first 8 innings of the ball game. But I think you have to credit that to Charlie Leibrandt, who was pitching excellent tonight.
One final question: were you surprised that Leibrandt was left in to face you, or did you expect them to bring in Quisenberry at that point?
Well, I really thought he would be gone after Willie hit the double. I felt like they'd bring in some of their strong relievers and give him an opportunity to maybe win a ball game because of the fact that he's pitched 8 strong innings and he had to be getting tired by this time.
Terry, again, thank you for joining us and congratulations.
Thank you, Al.
We'll be talking with Dick Hauser. We'll hear from the Kansas City manager when we come back to KC in a moment.
Dick, I don't know whether you had a hunch or what, but I sure am glad I didn't have to make that decision to leave Charlie Leibrandt.
Reggie, it was made before the inning started. He was in complete command, and whatever changed. When they have a lot of switch hitters in, there's not a lot you can do. Guys that can run. We wanted Gary Blaylock and I both agreed before the inning started. His stuff was good enough. It was his game to win or lose.
The last year or a couple of years of Quisenberry has been dominating baseball, dominating the league. Would you have had him in there right away? Not
really, Reggie. It depends on what your starting pitcher's doing. He only given up 2 hits. They got a couple of 2 strike base hits, and they got a couple of 2 out base hits. So, no, under the normal circumstances, Quisenberry would have been in the game. But I think the way Charlie Leibrandt was pitching in complete change, I just felt like he could get it done.
Dick, I'd like to thank you for coming out. I know it's not easy. You're a class guy.
Thank you, Reggie.
A little tough right now in front of you, huh?
Well, yeah, but... Yeah, anytime you're only 1 out away, it's always tough, But we're just going to have to battle back and get this thing done in St. Louis.
Again, thanks for coming out, Dick. Let's go back to Al Michaels.
You said it right, Reggie. Not too many managers would agree to do an interview like that 1 minute after what just took place. 4-2, Cards win it. We'll be back in a moment. To Alan Roth and Steve Hurt, our thanks for the numbers as the Cardinals win it 4-2 to take a 2-0 lead in the series. And a reminder to be with us on Tuesday night, 8 Eastern time.